All right, so dashboards is one of the most powerful features. You may see something like this or something else. There's going to be a lot of updates coming out to the dashboards. So if you watch this video and then later on you go to the dashboards and you notice new buttons and features and wondering what they are, just come back to this video and I'll update it as we update the dashboard. But what's great about the dashboards is you can create new ones. You can also manage who can see those, who can edit those. And it's really great for aggregating your data and seeing different metrics or key performance indicators. So when you're on this dashboard tab right here, you'll notice this blue drop down and this will show all your dashboards, and then you'll notice you can add a new dashboard here. So when you click there, the first thing it'll bring up is for you to name your dashboard. So I can say example, and then the default is it's going to be private. So that means that if you create this dashboard, you're the only one in your organization that will see it. But if you want this to be a public dashboard, you can toggle this off. And if you toggle this, you'll see some different options. So the owner of the business is an account admin. You can make other team members account admins if you wish. It just gives them different kinds of controls. And then you have your users, which don't have as many controls, and that's what it means by here. So you would maybe say, I want full access for the account admin, but I only want the user to be able to view so that they can't edit or delete or change anything with it. However, if this was a dashboard for one of your team members, like a sales rep, and you want them to have the ability to edit, you could do that. Whatever makes the most sense for you in this dashboard. So I'll go ahead and hit confirm. Now, even after you've created the dashboard, if you wanted to change that, you can by clicking these three dots at the top right-hand corner, and you can go to manage permissions and it'll bring that box back up so that you could adjust this at a later date if you wanted to. So let's look at the other options here. You can clone the dashboard. So that would be common if you have like two estimators, you build one out for one estimator, you would like clone it and then just go in and change the conditions to be on the other estimators so that they see their individual data. This set as default dashboard is if you want this to be the main dashboard you see when you go to the dashboard page. Managing dashboard time zones would be helpful if you have like two locations and one of them is in a different time zone, because everything is related to times, like, when we marked this job as booked, if that's 1 o'clock in one time zone, but that could be a different day in a different time zone, that's why it's there. Most people won't need this, but if you have multiple locations in different time zones, it's there for you. And then obviously you can delete the dashboard if you want as well. So the dashboard is made up of different widgets and elements. And you can see it suggests some here, but you can click this edit button at any time and you can press add widget, and you'll see we've got widgets here and we've got elements here. So all of these create a box that you can move around, adjust, change the size and that sort of thing. More elements will be added over time, but you could, give this a title and change a few things like color and alignment. And then you'll see we've got this title here, and then we can add another element and we'll call this text box, and you can adjust the text to your liking. You can see it makes this box. You can adjust the box in different sizes. When there's other elements, you can move them around, rearrange them. You've got images, so you can put like your logo and just make it look pretty and nice for whoever's going to use it. This is the most powerful one, where you can embed things with either a URL or an iframe. This is for advanced users. I'll cover it in more depth in a different video, but for me, like if you're building certain graphs and stuff inside Google Sheets, you can actually iframe it in here and it can be interactive, but don't really need to use that. It's there for you if you need it, but the widgets is the main thing. So this is a dashboard I made that shows what I think is helpful information. If you don't have this dashboard already on your business, but you'd like it, just send me an email and I'll upload it into your account. But let me just show you what this is kind of showing. So you can see these 6 squares here, and these 3, you'll notice it says this year, this year, this year. And then these 3 say dashboard dates, dashboard dates, dashboard dates. So the dashboard dates are right here, and I could change this to any custom thing I want. I could say the last 7 days, and you can see the dates changed here. So this is showing total sold work this year, the average job size of that sold work, and then the number of jobs this year. This is showing the same information, but according to these dashboard dates. So sold during these dates, the average job size of what was sold during those dates, and the number of jobs during those dates. This is a dummy account, so there's no data, but what this is supposed to show is the number of leads we've gotten each week. So let me show you. So this is what it would look like if there was data in there. This is showing the number of leads each week, and this is for May. So you can hover over these and you can see the number of leads. And then this one is showing estimates set each week. Same thing, it's showing the number of estimates that were set. So this is in a line graph, which is just nice to see like, hey, is it going up? Is it going down? What's the trend? What's also really cool is if you click on one of these dots, it'll bring up a list of everybody that's in there. So you can verify it. You can see there's 81 here. And then you can download these into a Excel or CVS file. Here's the revenue booked each week. And you can see it'll show you the amount. And again, if I click on one like this guy, it's going to bring up all those jobs. So I can see them, verify them, export them. So that's what these are. Number of leads each week, number of estimates each week, revenue booked each week, which can be really helpful data for your business. This is going to show the estimate outcomes, and it's showing just the aggregate. So it's going to show the total amount here, and then it'll show 4 were won, 1 was lost, 1 is still open or in the maybe column. And again, if you click on it, it'll open it up and show you the estimates that are in there. This is the same thing, just with the dashboard dates instead of this year. And then this is showing, how many leads you got, how many estimates you did, and how many jobs you have. And again, this is dummy data, and then this is the same thing just with the dashboard dates. This is cool because it'll show you your cancellation rate. So if you set 10 estimates, how many cancel? This will show you how many calls are made by each user, how many calls are made by you, whoever's logged into the account and looking at this dashboard. And then this is your task manager just showing you tasks and stuff. So that's just a quick overview of this. Now, when you press this little edit button, you can rearrange these things. So what I mean by that is I could like bring that up here. I could bring that back down. I can grab the corner of any of these and make them bigger or smaller. So you can really rearrange this to be and look the way that you like. And then, like I mentioned before, you can go to elements. I could put an image in here, give this a title, put like a text somewhere just to really make it look like your own and however you wish. So now I want to recreate some of these so I can show you how you would do it and get you a better, deeper understanding of how you can create your own widgets to meet your own like KPIs and see the information that you want to see front and center. So let's start with this total sold, both for the dashboard dates and the year. So I'm going to press add widget. And the best thing to do is like reverse engineer it to where it's like, okay, what would show me total sold? So I know that if I looked at all my estimates and I looked at all the estimates that were booked, that would show me total sold. So I'm going to go to opportunities because an estimate is an opportunity. I see, 1 opportunities, and I'm going to click this one because it just makes the most sense. You can arrive to the same thing with all of these. Just gives you a starting point so you don't have to customize as much. So I'm going to click this. It brings up this box. So the first thing is we could title this, and then you'll see this metric here. So we have sum, min, max, average, count. So this would be the total. This would show you the lowest opportunity. So like the lowest priced job, highest priced job, an average of all the price jobs, and a count, like how many jobs. So we want to see the sum, we want to total it, and it automatically says of revenue. You can't change this. Depending on the widget and what you're looking at, you may or may not be able to adjust that, but this is what we want. Now under advanced settings is where your dates are, and you've got this date property. So it's like, what date do you want to use to have this check? So when it's looking at the whole year or when it's looking at the dashboard dates, there's different date fields within the CRM that you can choose to use to separate things by. And currently one of the updates we're working on right now is the ability to use more date properties. But for right now, all that's available is created on, updated on, and status change. So created on is whenever the opportunity was created. Updated is last time it was updated. Status change is if it's marked as open, lost, or won. So let me explain that a little bit more. In our estimate pipeline, any of the estimates that get moved to booked on the spot or callback, the status will change to 1. You see that 1 there. If we open this up, you'll see the status is 1. And then there's open and lost. So any that are under these maybes, decision maker, think about other estimate not painting this year, those are going to be open because it's a maybe, that there's still an opportunity that we're going to book it. And then there's none in these, but if I move one of these to these categories, which would be lost, right? Like let's say that they go with another company, the CRM will automatically update this and mark it as a lost estimate. So I'll refresh this so it'll bring in the new data, and now you can see this is marked as lost. All right, so I'm going to use status change because that makes the most sense. As soon as we change it to 1, it was a book job. And then for the date range, it defaults to the dashboard dates, but you could use different ones. So you could see yesterday, tomorrow, all these options. And if I want to do this year, I'm going to click on this year. So then it's going to, do exactly what it says, override it. So it's going to show me this year, just like this one does. Or if I want to do the dashboard dates. And that's really the difference between this square here and this square here. Now for conditions, this is where you narrow it down, and what's really important is we're looking at all opportunities, and opportunities could be leads, jobs, estimates, even interviews and stuff like that. So you can see it already has a condition in there because we picked the widget 1 opportunity, so it automatically put in status is 1. But I'll go ahead and delete this to show you how you'd build it from scratch. So the first thing is when I press add condition, I know that, hey, I only want to see estimates because I'm trying to figure out amount sold during a time frame. So I'm going to go to pipeline and say, hey, is estimates, that's all I want to see. And then I'm going to press add condition, and now I want to see the status is 1 because I only want to see the jobs that are booked. Now we could narrow this down even farther, and what's most powerful with these is the custom fields. So if I click here, it's going to bring up other custom fields that I've put into the CRM. So an example would be I can click on estimator, make sure this is on is, and then I could put an estimator I want to see. So let's say we have an estimator named John. Now what this is going to show me is just John's total booked work. So we could have one widget that shows John's and then another widget that shows Susan, and we could title them, John's total booked work for the year and then Susan's total booked work for the year, and we'll be using these conditions to narrow it down further. And something else that is powerful with this assigned user is you can actually select logged in user, so that'll be dynamic, that whoever is actually logged in and looking at this, it'll show them their stuff. So Susan and John would see 2 different things logging into the same dashboard. But for the rest of this video, I'll just be taking everything as a whole in one company and not slicing it down further, but just wanted to show, you could say, hey, I want to see everything for this production manager or this estimator or this assigned user and so forth. And that's how we filter it down to where it's like, hey, I'm showing opportunities, but only the estimates and only the ones that are 1. And I want to see the sum of that, and I want to see the date property of status change and whatever one you pick here. So now if I press save, it puts it down at the bottom, but you'll see it's the exact same thing as this, 22.34, got that there. And if I wanted to change it by pressing the 3 dots, edit, and then I could come here and I could say, hey, let's actually look at the dashboard dates. Now 9.6, you'll see that's the same as right here. Now for this average job size, the only difference is instead of saying I want to see the sum, you change it to average. And now this is showing the dashboard dates, the average 4.8, which is the same as right here, 4.8. And if I wanted to see the whole year, again, I would just change it to this year, save, which you'll notice it drops the dates in there to help you see it, which is the same as here. All right, so now let's look at how you'd make this number of jobs this year. So in that case, we can still build off of this. So I'm going to say edit, and now I actually want to see the count. Now we could use this same thing, number of estimates 1, which you'll get 4, and it really depends on what kind of information you're looking at, right? So another way you could do it is you could actually say, I want to see, instead of estimates, I want to see all the jobs, and I don't even care about the status. So this should show me all the jobs. And where it really gets a little tricky is based on these dates, right? Because you could get a callback that you actually did the estimate last year, so it was created last year, but then the status change happened this year. So you just need to use what makes the most sense. And like I said, soon we'll have the ability to put estimate done date or estimate close date for the date property to get a lot better accurate reporting, especially when you're not keeping current with your stats. When you're auditing once a week or once a month, you can go back and put in a previous date even though the status change happened today. And then if you wanted to further narrow it down, like if you wanted to see all the jobs that are done and paid or done and not paid, you could click this add stage here and you could say, hey, I want to see all that are done, not paid, done and paid. And then, if we were looking at done, not paid, I would title this something like, jobs that owe us money, contacts in accounts receivable, something like that. So you can see this can be really powerful to get big accurate data. You could even put that on its own dashboard, and you could label that dashboard, debt collection or something like that, and see other things that are pertaining to that kind of dashboard theme. All right, so now you can see how we got these metrics here as well. So let's look at this one, right? Leads entered each week. So let's recreate this one. So I'm going to come back to where we were, press edit. And the difference with this is I'm actually, instead of seeing a number, because I want to see how many leads we got each week, I'm going to change this to a line. The bar graph would work as well, whether it's horizontal or vertical. I prefer the line, but either of them will work. But you'll notice when I go from number to line here, I get these extra drop downs. So I actually want to see the count. I want to see the number of leads, and then you can see view by, and you can do a lot of different things here. But what makes most sense in this case is created on, especially for my company, because all the leads immediately go into the CRM. So when it was created is when we got the lead. And then you got this breakdown. You could see daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. I choose weekly here. And then for this date property, I'm going to change this to created on, and I would change this to dashboard dates. And then the important part is under conditions. I actually want to just look at leads. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to say pipeline is leads. And that'll show me all of the leads configured in this way, right? So we're looking at how many on a weekly basis. We're going to be using created on for the date property. So that'll be basically our x-axis, and then the count will be our y-axis. So press save, and then there is no data in here. But let's go ahead and put something in so we can get an idea how this will work, right? So I'm going to press save. I'm going to say this year, and you can see now that it's this year, I entered 11 fake leads here. I entered another one here. Let's go ahead and just create one real quick. So I could do that by going here to create a new lead. So I'm just going to say, example, save, go back to my dashboard, and now you can see it updated this. I didn't enter any last week in this dummy account, but you can see it's showing that one that I just entered. Let's make another one just so you can see that it updates. Press the plus button, example 2, save, and now you can see it showing 2 there. So that's how I would create this lead. It's entered each week dashboard dates. All right, so now let's look at this estimates set each week, and I'm actually gonna say add widget, and I'm not gonna use the opportunities one. I'm gonna use this appointment one because I find that it's a little bit easier to get the information I want. And you can see we've got a bunch of pre-configured things, right? And yeah, the first one is what I'm looking for, appointment count. So I want to see this again in a line graph, which gives me those. And you could say created on, or what makes more sense is booked for, right? So we want to use the dates of when it was booked for. So I'm going to change that to there, and under advanced settings, I'm going to say booked for as well. I'm going to go to weekly. So this is going to show me all the appointments. I'm going to go ahead and change appointment to estimate. And this is going to show me all the estimates that were booked on different dates, and it's using the day that the actual estimate is booked for on. Now in conditions, this is where you'd want to add if you're doing appointments that are not just estimates, like let's say you're using it for interviews as well, you'd want to add the condition and say in the calendar or calendar group, right? For calendar group, I've got sales production. So if all your estimates are in the sales group, you could do that, or you could separate it by calendar as well. But that's where the groups is really helpful, because you could say, hey, sales is all my estimates, production is all my interviews, and you could create other groups as well. You could even pick like is one of and select multiple groups. But this is now how I would show number of estimates set on a weekly basis with the line graph. And again, you could do bar or horizontal, and you can see it created this. And again, it's great because you can click on these and then you can see what estimates are those, and you can get all the information. You can see when it was created on, when the actual time it was for, what calendar it's in, and yada yada. All right, so now let's recreate this revenue booked each week. So I'm going to say add widget, and I'm going to pick opportunities, and I'll go ahead and just start with any of these just to show you. I'll just pick the first one. All right, so I'm going to change this to a bar graph, and then instead of count, I'm going to say I want to see the sum, and I want to see this on a weekly basis. And then conditions, I'm going to pick this to be, I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to say pipeline is jobs. So what this is going to show me is the sum of the revenue broken down weekly, and the view by is created on date. So basically this X axis here is going to be broken down weekly, as you can see, and it's going to be using the created on date. And then the Y axis here is going to be the revenue, right? So it's showing it here. And now the date property, again, you can use what makes most sense. Because the condition for me is jobs, in the CRM, when you mark an estimate as booked, it will automatically create a job then. So I know every time I mark an estimate as booked, a job is created. So created on makes sense here, because jobs are created whenever an estimate is booked. So this all looks right. I'm going to go ahead and press save, and we should recreate this. If we come down here, you can see it's the same. Again, it's great because you can click there, view the jobs that are in there, and you can see if I wanted to change this to say a line graph, just click that right there, press save, and now you can see it as a line graph. All right, so now let's look at these two. The only difference is this here versus dashboard dates, and this is estimate outcome. So it's going to show the outcome of the estimates. So let's go ahead and press add widget. I know it's going to be appointments. Opportunity counts by status makes the most sense based on what we're looking for. So let's click on that and see what it's saying, right? So we've got a donut based on the one we picked, which in this case makes sense. Change the title if we want, and it's showing the count of opportunities grouped by the status, which all makes sense. Conditions, I would say I'm only wanting to look at my estimates, right? So I'm going to again change this to pipeline is estimates. Save, and we should have recreated this. So yeah, it's showing all the estimates that happened in whatever date range we have, and it shows the total here is 6, and it shows 4 were won, 1 was lost, 1 was open. So you could easily calculate your booking rate, right? So if it was 4 out of 6, you're booking 66%. Now let's look at these two, right? Leads versus estimates versus jobs. I'm going to go ahead and press edit conditions, and now for pipeline I'm going to pick is one of, and I'm going to say estimates, jobs, leads, save, and now it's showing, hey, there's 27 total, and then it's showing me the status, but that's not helpful. I don't want that, so I'm going to say edit, and I'm going to group this by pipeline. Press save. Okay, now we're seeing there's 27, 14 leads turned into 6 estimates, which turned into 7 jobs, which doesn't really make sense. It's dummy data, and it's because I created multiple jobs. So let me press save. I'll make this more accurate. So this would be more representative of real life. You know, you had 14 leads, which turned into 6 estimates, which turned into 4 jobs. All right, so this estimate cancellation rate, I'm gonna go add widget. We're gonna go to appointments, and there's actually one called canceled appointments. So it's gonna be doing a count of appointments, and I actually wanna see it in this donut view, which you'll notice when you change these, it gives you some different options. So this is grouping by status, or you could do user, calendar, or group. So what's important here is when you open up this advanced settings, you'll see an order and a limit. So let's say that I change this to user, and let's say that I had 12 users. You want to make sure you put the limit at 12, because if you keep it at 10, it's only going to show you 10 of the users. So you might get confused and be like, wait, why isn't like Adam and Joe in there? And just double check that this is correct, and then you can do ascending or descending in terms of like go from highest to lowest or lowest to highest. And then again, we can be using booked for, which makes most sense for estimates a lot of times. And then for conditions, it's showing status is canceled, but if I actually delete that, then group it by status, I'll be able to see how many were confirmed and how many canceled, which can be helpful to calculate the cancellation rate, but you could configure it however you want. All right, so now let's look at this one. I'm going to go to add widget, and I'm actually going to go to the calls, and you can see there's a lot of things you could choose here. I'm going to say outgoing calls by status. So I'm trying to get a metric for like who's making the most calls and who's making calls. So I would actually group by call attended by, which is going to show me who, like what user is making the calls, and it's going to count the number of calls. And then under conditions, we've got outgoing. So it's going to show calls going out. If we wanted to see total calls, we could get rid of this and it'll show incoming and outgoing. But if I'm trying to, you know, reward people for making more calls, incoming, that's just natural, it happens. So outgoing might be more helpful here. And that's how you would be able to come up with this calls made by each user for the dashboard dates. So you could be like, hey, Frank, you can see Susan's making 2x the amount of calls. No wonder she's booking more work or something like that. And then this your logged in user calls, the difference here is I grouped it by direction. So it's going to show incoming and outgoing. And then under conditions, I use the assign user logged in user. So if Susan is logged in, it's going to show just her incoming and outgoing calls, versus if Frank is, it'll show his, and it'll be different for each user. And that's why I put this logged in user in parentheses there. So for this text messages, that's going to be under conversations, and there's a lot here. I'll just pick the first one for a starting point. We're actually looking at the count and the date property. You can mess around with this, right? Last message date makes a lot of sense for this particular situation, and you could even filter the conversation by read, unread, starred. You know, last message was an email, an SMS. So we could say, I only want to see text messages. And we could even say last outbound. And this is kind of important because if you have automations, it'll count the text message even if they automatically went out and the user didn't do it. But if you do manual, it's only going to show the ones that they manually did. All right, and then These are all the ones I was creating during this video. This guy right here is actually a template in here. If you go under general, you'll see there is a tasks. And the thing with the general and tasks is you'll notice you don't actually have the ability to edit those. So they can be helpful, but sometimes it's not the exact information you need. So sometimes it's better to create it from scratch, but this general does have a couple as of right now that are actually harder to recreate from scratch, such as this task one, because it's kind of its own thing. But what's nice here is for the user that's looking at this dashboard, they could pick their name, and then every time they come back to this dashboard for that user, it'll just default to them. So they don't have to always change it to their name. So this can be helpful, especially if you're using the tasks feature, that every time they log in, their dashboard comes up and they can see any pending tasks they need to take care of. All right, so that's a quick rundown of these. Hopefully you get an understanding of how powerful the dashboard page is.